Okay, so what I thought we'd do today was I get lots of questions asked of me. Okay, jelly plate printing is cool, it's brilliant, but what do you do with it afterwards? Okay, and I thought what we could do is have a bit of a play and come up with some ideas that we can do with jelly plate printing, but take it right back to the beginning about things that hooked us into our card making, our crafting adventure. So what I've done is I've just got some of my jelly prints that I've done and I split mine out. So this one here in this big bundle and all the smaller bits here is what I would do to do collage. Hi Sarah John, hi Sonia. And these bits here is what I would do to do collage, and I would either tear them up or use them with stamps, so which we are going to be doing, so I'll show you what I mean. So I've taken the Be Crafty birds and butterflies, and they've got a beautiful stamp set and matching dies. So that's on a jelly plate background. So I've got the bird coloured in, and then all I've done is I will start layering up on different small bits of background, and you can bring in a quick way, hi Shireen, of, you know, suddenly brick colouring in your stamped images with those backgrounds. So we're going to do a little bit of that. The other thing I thought we could do is we could look at doing our backgrounds. So I've been playing. And these are technically what I would call my mop-up sheets, and I keep them and I use them in lots of different ways. So what I've done here is I've just used a stencil with them and embossing powders, because embossing powders was probably the first thing that got me into crafting properly, I would say, down that little rabbit hole, you know, like when the embossing powder changed colours and things like that. So it was to have a look at some of the backgrounds I've got here sitting and what we can do and how we can then turn them into whatever way we like to use them, whether it's card making, journaling, you know, lots of different things. So that's some of the things we're going to be doing today. Let's just file you over there. Right, so for me, as I said, after I've done some printing, I change all mine around and I put them into different folders. So this lot here would be what I would be using, what I call collage work. So this would be how I do lots of the layering of prints, stamping on top of them. I'm trying to see if I've got anything around me that gives that idea of collaging. Oh, let's have a look. Sorry, this, there's me going, this is the bag of stuff that I've made that I want to keep. So this is what I mean by collaging. So these are all jelly plate backgrounds. I've stamped onto them and then I've created them into another piece. Hi Noreen. And that's what I do. And these are 9 times out of 10 like my mop-up pieces rather than my finished pieces. So, and then just to show you don't have to go abstract. This is Be Crafty's Luna set. And these are a mixture of, you can see by the dark sheets here, the mop-up pieces. And it's a card, it's a shaker card. So your jelly prints don't always have to be used for your art journaling. You can use them for whatever style of crafting you want. It's just thinking back about how we want to use them. So this is what I mean by collage, and that's what I mean by those little bits that I will keep. So this is like my wallet of things, of projects I've made that, you know, that I just keep adding to more and more and more. Okay, so let's put you there. And then I will have, so this is my collage. Now these are backgrounds that I have in here that are a mixture of mop-ups, prints I've started that I can carry on working on if I want to, you know, so on and so forth. They're not quite finished. Actually, that would make a really cool background, full stop. So like that's a mop-up piece. That's a mop-up piece. They're a mixture. So that one I know is acrylics because I can feel it. This one I know is inks because I can feel the difference in the two. And it's just really taking some of those prints and how we can use them and how we can push them just that little bit more forward. So let's put you back there, and then I've just got some tags that I've worked on and things like that. So I thought what we'd do is we do a mixture and go back to having a bit of fun with some of the things that we originally did. And I thought, to me, as I said, the thing that hooked me was embossing powders, and Bev said that. I love that shaker card. Oh, Bev, you know I'm rather obsessed with your La Luna. Right, so I'm just going to find a place to put these, to say the least. Sorry, I'm just going to grab something while Bev is on. Bev, that's the other bit from the waste I made. That's with the La Luna stamps, and then I cut out all the different designs, and then that's from your different circles, from your Inkables. That I created from there. So, you know, that's a card blank as well. A card in its own right. Let's put you back up there. Okay, so let's get started. So what I thought we'd do is, if we take the small bits first, and I'm just going to grab a few of the small bits. So a lot of these bits I have in here that I call my collage bits are mop-up backgrounds. So like that's a mop-up where I've taken off. I know that's a mop-up by how thick it feels. Sorry, I've just seen the comments. A dusting of snow. We've just got rain. Oh, Veronica, sorry to hear about your husband. So that's a mop-up. I know, because I can tell by how many layers of paint are on there from when you do your brayer, and you can feel. That's a mop-up from, actually I think that's gloss sprays. And different backgrounds. So they're things that I don't really want to work on and change into another background, but I still keep because they're good for different things. So I'm just going to grab a few to work on to show you what I mean. So I'm just going to grab that one. That one's quite cool. That one's quite cool. That one's quite cool. Let's have a look. So I've got 3 there. Otherwise I'll spend more time going, that's cool. That's all right to work on. And that's got some gold in it. We'll grab a bit of that. Okay. Right. And so this is just how I do some of my bits for my jelly backgrounds, gel printing backgrounds. Does anybody do anything a little bit different with theirs? So I'm just going to put you there. And then these are my smaller bits that I keep because it's just got a cool bit of gold in there. and it looks cool. So what I want to do, so I'm just going to start with some of these. Now that I think would make a really good background for a card, so I'm going to keep that. Either going to be that or that. No, we'll work on that one. That one I'm going to keep. And I'm just going to grab my ink platform. Now the only reason I'm using mine is because I've lost the feet on one of my glass mats, and it's making stamping really, really horrible, and I can't get a smooth image, so I'm just going to use my press for the moment. And what I want to do is, let's put a magnet there and there for the moment. I just want to grab some of the stamps we've got from here. So I'm using Bev's on, she can tell. These are, I believe, Bev, these are the extra large ones. And they've got beautiful, you know, like the bird, the butterfly. So I just want to use some of those to start with. And I'm just going to take the bird and let's grab, might as well grab a few of the butterflies while we're here. I'm going to put that one there. As you can see, I don't really clean my stamps. And I'm just going to fill up from here. And we'll just put them down. Now, I'm going to stamp in black and use clear. But you could easily stamp and, you know, use... sorry, I'm just seeing there. It's because it's acrylic paint. They're sticking to it. Right, that's okay. You could easily use coloured embossing powders, but I thought we'd start with the... Let's go back to basics. Let's move you out of the way. Brilliant. Oh, great. I have got that. Phew. Dominique, the jelly prints I'm using could be on a mixture of anything. Could be a mixture of card. Could be the paper, like if it's a mop-up piece. Like this is a mop-up piece. This feels like thin card. For example, that one there, I know by the original feel of it was like copy paper. So it is basically, these are bits of everything, for want of a better expression. Right. I treated myself to a new VersaFine Clear ink pad. And it is, I forgot how juicy they are when they first arrive. So let me just get these done. So it's good to print on just like lots of different things. We all say you can print on different things. You can do it on the parchment, vellum, copier paper, coloured paper, you name it. Right. Let's see if this will stay in place now. Yay! Right, so I've got those there. I'm going to let that dry. And so I've just printed straight away on the background. See, don't think your jelly, you know, your jelly prints can't be stamped on and used straight away in different ways. So that one I'm just going to put there, and I'm going to grab another background that I've got out. And this time I'm going to put the, yeah, I want to put the bird there. And I'm just playing around where I want to put different elements. That one there. So these two are going to come off for the moment, because I want to use them on a different one. Sorry if I can't see comments. Facebook is really lagging. We had the electricity people here this morning, but they were being very secret squirrel about what they were actually doing out in the street. And it was like, okay, it would be nice just to know. Oh, look, there's so, shows you how juicy my ink pad is. I've got an impression already. Let's hope it doesn't double up. Right. Okay, my Facebook now is lagging behind, well and truly, because I've gone back to when I did the first lot. So I'm hoping everything is okay. No, it looks it on my phone. It's on the PC. It looks differently. Right, so I've got, you can see there. So this is quite juicy. So I've just left that one. Actually, I've got some left there for embossing. Let's grab a piece of card. So I keep all the leaflets from our local newspapers, because they're great for when I want to do things like this. So I'm just going to start by just doing simple embossing straight away. Whoa. And it shows you how juicy this pad is. Normally I wouldn't get with a VersaFine, because it dries quite quickly, be able to emboss so quickly. I think I've got a little bit OTT with putting out my embossing powder, but that doesn't matter. Right, okay. So let's just put you back, because I think I did go just a touch OTT there. Right. It is a big tub of powder, I know. But sometimes it's cheaper to buy the bigger tubs than it is to keep buying the little tubs. Because when you, I mean, I think it's about like 4 or 5 little tubs would fill one of these big ones. And when you work out what they are individually, it's actually more cost effective to do it that way. Well, in my head it is anyhow. Right, let's just give these a quick wipe. There we go. And I'm just going to put the stamps over here for now. I will tidy them up properly in a minute. Okay. Right, so let's just heat emboss these. So this is just like traditional. So this is just literally just stamping as we would do on a piece of card, but why not do it on a jelly print? It doesn't, do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be, your jelly prints are a starting point. So I've got that there. got that one. And I think when we start out, we normally start out with like a clear powder, a gold maybe, a black. I never got into black embossing powder. I'm not sure why. I think it's because if I stamped in blank ink and then I put clear on, I didn't see the point of having black embossing powder. Maybe that was me. But I did really get into gold and silver and bronze. Oh, I think bronze is an unsung embossing powder colour. Right. Okay. There we go. So I've just stamped the images out. Lou is to embossing powder as Jane is to collage medium. I am Noreen. I love it. I think it's there's lots of things in our crafty stash that are unsung heroes and we don't use enough of, myself included. And you know, it's different things like that. So that is just stamping, and that is a jelly print. I think, yeah, it looks like it because look, the paper's ripped there. So this was me doing a mop-up. So you can stamp on that. We're going to die cut them. I just want to let them cool down a bit. And then I've got it on one there, and I've got a little bit of the gold. So I'll let them cool down, and then we will use those. So while they're cooling down, I want to do some other bits. I'm just going to have a quick slurp of coffee, though. Hi, Janet. How are you? Hi, Veronica. Hi, Sonia. Sorry, I'm very thirsty today. Right, now the other thing I thought we could do, and we don't do enough of, and I've just put them down somewhere, I couldn't see for looking, is with our stencils. So I'm going to grab some of the stencils that I want to use. And I want to grab a mixture. Oh, my dog's just come in to say hello as well. Right, I'd like to say I clean my stencils. That's why I have 2 of everything, near enough. And I've got to say that, oh look, that is looking a bit grubby. That does need a bit of a bath. That's got gel mediums on it. That's got to be one of my favourites. I'm rummaging while I look for what I want. Okay, that's one. And where is the other one I'm looking for? I think the other one is being done in the Secret Squirrel project. Right, so we'll just do those 3 for the moment. Okay, so I've got some stencils. Normally we would use them on the jelly prints straight away, and we build up our designs that way, but why not use them in other ways as well? So I'm just going to grab these, like I said, my mop-up backgrounds from this bag here. The ones that I go, not sure I'm going to use you too much. Oh, a purpley one. Gosh, that's got to be a TV demo one. It's not my norm go-to. That's one. Right, let's grab a few. Right, so what I want to do is, now, part of the thing is looking at things and going, hi Tom, didn't see you there. Part of the thing is looking at backgrounds and going, yeah, that is absolutely horrible. But not being scared about it. Treat it as a leaping point. We all have backing papers and we buy pads, and there's always the one paper we don't like. Simple as that. Right, so let's start with that one for starters. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab, I did get it out. I don't know which one of my embossing ink pads is the wettest. And I'm just going to use an embossing ink through the stencil. So it's a clear ink, and this is the only thing when you're demoing with a clear ink. You've just got to, even for the people demoing with it, is have I covered everything? And I just moved my stencil. So it might be a little bit, this is what happens if you just stick it down a bit more. Right, so I've got that there, and I think I've picked most of it up. If I haven't, I'm not worried. But what I do want to do, I've got loads and loads of ink on here. And I just want to grab a print. So I'm just going to grab... Oh. And my mat. And I just want to... Now, which way round shall I do it? I think I'm going to do it so it goes this way round. Right, so this has just got lots of ink on it. So I'm just going to sit that there. And that's going to go through my machine in a moment. But in the meanwhile, we've got some ink on here. So let's just get some powders on here. Let's put you out of the way. And I'm just going for... generic colour. I'm just going to do what we would have started off with maybe a little bit of gold. And as you can see, it's picked up. I've moved my stencil, but I'm not too fussed about that. You could get a paintbrush and, you know, knock it back in different places. And let's just grab a little bit of the silver. This is a Be Crafty one. Sorry, I don't know the names. If Bev's on, no doubt she will say. Alright, so I've got a bit of gold, a bit of silver. And let's go for... what's this one? Holographic. Ooh. Ooh. So let's fill in the gaps with any holographic. Ooh. Obviously, I haven't used that very much because it's near enough a full tub. Okay, so I've got that there. Fernando. Oh, I'd better say I'm about to start singing that song now, but I won't mistreat you. Right, so we've got that going, and I'll do all the embossing at the same time. So that's using one part of the stencil. We've got it there. So I'm just going to move it out of the way because I want to just grab my die cutting machine. Now, I've got everything around me being organised, and can I see it? No, of course you can't. Right. Should not have given it that name, I know. Right, so all I'm going to do is, because this is another backing sheet, and all I've done is where I had the embossing ink on the other side, I just put it now onto here. And I think sometimes we forget with our stencils, you know, that we can emboss with them through our machines. Right, I'm just going to move this so I don't take out... oh, here comes my dog to say hello. So I don't have an electronic machine, I still have the old-fashioned crank machine. Right, so now what I've done is, I'll try and lift it up so you can see. So I've embossed it, and you can see all the I'm hoping you can see all the beautiful stencil design from that Fernando. I'm going to try and pretend to be a Paola. Has come through, but the shiny bit that you can see, I'm hoping the camera can pick it up, is actually the wet embossing ink. And there is still loads on that stencil that I could probably put it through again. I won't, but I could do. Right, so let's just move you. Where's my machine? There. And we're going to grab some embossing powders. Oh, sorry, that's my smelly thing that goes off. So this time around, the embossing ink is going to be in a different location. So it's like positive and negative, 300-year-old calibre. And I'm just going to stick roughly to the same sort of colours. So this, and we're going to use, so this is, all right, so that's the gold on there. And as I said, this was a mock-up print that I really, I put, Jimmy, yes, I put it on the stencil to start with. And then I put it through the die cutting. Like, if I show you in a moment, it'll probably be easier what I've done. Okay. We've got a little bit of silver going on there. Let's just put a little bit of silver there. I'm being good and putting lids on. I'm dreadful for knocking things over. We might as well stick to the holographic as we did the other one with holographic as well. Wizard from Spellbinders. Wow. I mean, I've got a couple of different machines. I got the electronic snap one. Now, the only reason I got that was my mum messaged me one day and she said, oh, could you... She said, I've seen something on Create and Craft. Can you check it out to see if I'm, I'm reading it wrong, blah, 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 blah. And I said, oh, yeah, okay, Mum. Off I went. And they had shall we say, I think, mispriced it. And it was something like £15. So I bought one. Have I used it? Probably once. Because I've got to plug it in. Right, so, Jimmy, what I did was I put the stencil down originally like that. And then using my embossing ink, I went through the stencil. And I put some embossing powders on. Not to waste the ink, I then turned it over and then put this through my die cutting machine. So I'm getting a 2 for 1. I've never mastered the art with the electronic one, even though I've only got that snap. I'd still sit there and look at it as it goes through. And I always thought, for me, the idea was that, you were meant to just go off and do something else while it whizzed its way through. And I've never quite mastered that. So... I've never quite mastered the fact that, well, that I should really hold things with a pair of tweezers while I'm embossing it, because then I probably wouldn't get scorched hands. Right, so that, I will do that. So that was the first one. So suddenly that horrible background has changed into something different. So we'll trim it down. And I've got gold and I've got silver. I'm going to move the lights to see if you can see it a little bit better. Going on there, and that's going through with a stencil. So you can do it, do it that way as well. So let's emboss this one, and this one is using what was left up of the ink on the stencil. I'm the same, Bev. It's doing lots of different techniques, isn't it, sort of thing, with the backgrounds. I do love an embossed background. I do want to do a live as well on embossing and then doing resist embossing and then ironing it off to show you how you can do different backgrounds with that, and I've got that planned to do as well. It's my goal for 2022 is to actually try and go back to some of the things that got me hooked into crafting in the first place. Okay, so now from the same, both of those were what I would consider mop-up sheets. We've got two completely different backgrounds, and I'll let them cool down and I'll cut them down. So all of a sudden the stencils take on a different look as well, and I've got two unique backgrounds. And because I've mixed the embossing powders together and I've got a gold, silver and a holographic, depending on which light you look at, sort of thing, you get a different. The second one's more dramatic because this part is embossed and it stands out. This one is not quite as dramatic, but it's a great subtly starting off piece. But they are great ways, that you can do your different backgrounds. So I'll cut those down because they look different once you've cut them down. Right, I'm going to put them to cool down, and then I'm just going to have a quick slurp of coffee. What I want to do is grab something else. Oh, Bev, you read my mind. You totally and utterly read my mind. Right, so Bev's read my mind. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to do exactly the same technique, but if you haven't seen them, I mean, I use them all the time. The Distress Embossing Glazes. Bev's on from Be Crafty, by the way, folks. So I know that Bev does sell them. So let's grab a different stencil that I got out. So I've got this one out here, and let's turn it around this time, and I'll do the bosser. So I'm going to do exactly the same as I did before. Bev, is this one of yours, or is it a Jelly Arts one? I can't remember. I could have muddled them up. So I'm just going to go exactly the same as I did before. And maybe I should have stuck this down and then it won't move. Now, if you've got a dauber, you can use, so what I mean by a dauber is an embossing ink in a bottle. So it's, you can use a dauber if you prefer to do it that way. The only thing I would say with daubers is that when you want to get into finer detail, it can catch your stencil if you're a bit rough. Right, so I'm just going to, you might see my head as I try and look to see if I've covered everything. Right, so I've got that one there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over. And I'm just going to put this one on here. Like that. And let's get my mats ready. And which way around shall I do it again? I might do it this way for a change. Okay, that's ready to go for the next one. And what I was going to do was bring in some of the embossing glazes. Hi, Julia. Right. I'm just, I do have one or two, to say the least. Bev's run out of storage. Bev, you need to get some more tins in, Bev. My crayons are bursting at the seams and the crayon tins fit these beautifully. Right, so the embossing glazes. Hi Lydia, long time no see, how are you? The embossing glazes are exactly the same as an embossing powder. The only thing is, with an embossing powder, when you put it on and it's heated up, it is opaque. So it totally takes away the background you had underneath. The embossing glazes are designed to be a colour that sits on top of a colour. So you can still see a little bit of the detail behind. Right, so I'm going to go for some coordinating-ish sort of colour. So I've got a bit of Kitsch Flamingo, because you have to. Happy New Year to you. God, you know what? I think the last time we actually saw each other in person, Lydia, was a Stamporama. You were demoing up there. And I'm going to grab a little bit of broken china. So the glazes go on and they look like they are an embossing powder, because you can see where they are on the ink. So like you can see the blue and you can still see the pink. But they have a translucent effect like you would get with a clear. So let's do one more. I'm going to go for, no, I don't want Tattered Rose. 5 bricks are probably a little bit too, I love Rusty Hinge. So I'm going into, let's go Fossilized Amber. Mingo. And so I'm just going to add some of the Fossilized Amber. Just in places. So you can see where the embossing powder has been, because it stands out on this piece here. So I'm just going to put that to one side, and I'm just going to emboss that other piece before the ink dries. But then again, I think I put so much ink on. Let's move you lot out of the way. Do you know, I start off with being like, oh, I'm going to be really good and keep things nice and clean and tidy. It never works that way. Right, let's grab the machine and grab my mat. Right, do I want it to be... no, I'm going to turn it around, I think, so I can push it up a little bit further. Because you can work it both ways. You'll just get greater depth one way over the other. I know, I think we definitely should change that, Lydia. Definitely. Right, this time I'm bringing it back to me only because I fought at the end trying to get it out. Right, let's put you down. Okay. Right, so this time what I've done is, because I turned the paper over, I have just literally, instead of getting a raised effect, so you can do both ways with your stencils. If you do it so the stencil is facing up and then your mat is forced through your stencil, you get a raised effect. If you turn it round the opposite way like I've done, all it does is transfer the ink directly back onto your background, but you don't get a raised effect. So all it's doing is doing like a letterpress. So don't think you have to have a raised effect if you want to, if you don't want to. Right, let's get a little bit of weathered wood. You will never convince us you're actually a messy crafter. Oh, I do try, Julia. I do try. My family would probably say I'm messy, but maybe I'm not as messy. I'm going to be quiet now. It's simpler. You need to go. Right, so I've used a little bit of weathered wood, and this is a little bit of the cracked pistachio. And I'm just doing all these at the same time, because then I can just get the heat gun out in different, rather than keep doing one heat gun sort of thing. Right, and I'm going to bring in a little bit of the fossilized amber. Now, you could be a little bit more colour coordinated than I'm being. So, as you can see, the difference, if I lift it up, I'm just trying to work out where I've got some other wet bits. There we go. Right, now it'd probably be easier to show you what I meant. Right, so for that one, as you can see, I put it so the stencil was on the bottom, so when the green mat was forced through, it pushed up, and then I get all the raised elements. This time round, what I did was I turned it round the opposite way, and what it's done is it's put all the ink as a letterpress, like as if I made the stencil into a huge stamp, for want of a better expression, and I have no embossing, no raised at all. I hope that makes sense. So that way I can show you the positive and the negative, because they'll both be flat and not raised. She says. Right, so this is the embossing glazes. Now, with normal embossing powders, we would have gone, these would actually be, you know, the colour they are. If I try and heat from behind, probably easier. And what it does, they go lovely and shiny like an embossing powder, but they are also affected by the colour underneath. So where there is more pink and the blue, it will go purpley. Where the fossilized amber is, it will go like an orange. And where the Mingo is, it will go just more of an intense pink. So the glazes are another way of adding a translucent colour effect to your work. So they are brilliant for that. I mean, I can do a resist technique now. If I didn't like the background at all, once this is cooled down, I could go over with my inks straight away and recolour the background altogether. It's easier though if it's on an inky background, not so much if it's on an acrylic paint background. So, you know when you wish you'd use smaller bits of paper because it wouldn't take quite so long to emboss? I'm at that stage, I think. But sometimes it's nice to see a bigger piece over a smaller. And the only reason I'm heating it from behind is so you guys can see it change. I know there's a big debate out there about heating from at the back of the piece of paper or at the front or whatever. I just do whatever's easier, to be quite frank. Right, okay, so got that one. So this technically is the stencil part that was like a letterpress, is like a stamp itself. So when you got it, it takes a little bit longer when you're heating the back of the card, because it's got to heat the back of the card before it hits the embossing powder. Some people say if you do it like this way, it makes the embossing powder smoother, but the embossing powder only really gets pitted and really bumpy if you overheat it. But then that's another really cool effect as well. Right, okay. So, right, here we go. And one of the reasons I like using embossing powders on top of your prints, because it sticks to acrylic paint, or if I use a gel medium, it sticks to a gel medium background, and it's a lovely way to add a little bit of shine and a different way to use your stencils. You can do exactly the same with your embossing folders, which we will do, and then I'm going to die cut my birds out and then do those and show you what I do. Right, so I'm going to have to tip it to one side to see if I've got everything, because it's easier. Right. So now you can see, so that was that background. You saw how it started, and I've layered the glazes on. So rather than them being, so if this had been a true yellow, that would have been yellow and you would have seen the background underneath. But because they're a glaze, they have the hint of the colour that I originally used. So I've got the weathered wood, cracked pistachio and the fossilized amber. But where you've got different colours underneath, they create another colour. So where the fossilized amber's over the deep blue, I've got like a really deep green. And the same here, where the cracked pistachio has lightened a darker blue and made it more of a teal colour. And that's where the embossing glazes come into their own. So on this one here, I've got the Kitsch Flamingo on top of more of the purple. And it's taken on a purple colour look compared to being on a pink look. So the embossing glazes, you know, work that way. And that was a background that I didn't want, you know, I didn't know what to do with a jelly print. I mean, I will cut all these down and I will turn them into something, she says. Okay, let's just clear those up. I'm just going to let them dry, or dry, get cooler. So, see, look, Julia, I am messy. I'm putting it all on my floor. Okay, so I've got another, see, look, I've got loads of bits everywhere. And what I want to do is I want to grab, wherever it is, an embossing folder. And you can do exactly the same with your embossing folders as well. So obviously on an embossing folder, one side is raised, one's debossed. And obviously when they sandwich together, the raised side pushes into the debossed bit, and that gives you the raised bit. But you can do exactly the same with your embossing folders. So let's grab my ink. And I just clean them afterwards. You could with just water, or I just wipe them down if I remember. And I'm just going to cover both sides, because now what I'll get is a different effect. I'm hoping, she says, fingers crossed, because I actually haven't done this for ages. One side will be embossed and one side will be debossed. So if I put one print facing that direction, and then one print, let's choose a different colour, and then we can see what it looks like on a different, oh, that's a bit of blues and greens. Let's go for that one. And one on that way. Okay. And where's the machine? Okay, right. Oh, let's turn the machine the right way would be a good idea as well. Otherwise I'm not going to be able to turn it. just, oh, there we go. Now I might need to use a thinner plate, we'll soon see. So any time you've got your embossing folders, that we all get freebies from magazines and things like that, this is another way of using them with your jelly plates. Or if you haven't got embossing folders, you've seen lots of the people in here. I mean, Lynette does it all the time when she makes chipboard elements, you know, by layering up die cuts. You can do exactly the same with those and put them on a piece of card. So now I've got my embossed background there, and hopefully there'll be some ink on it. If there's not, there'll be, well, we can always do it again. But this one, so this side now is embossed and this side is debossed. So we'll put some embossing powders on those. I will clean that. I'm putting that in a box to clean. And, right, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to do traditional embossing powders or glazes, or a mix of both? So glazes, traditional, or a mix? So I'm taking a slurp as you make a decision. Both. Okay, Julia got there first. Right, let's do a mix of both then. So let's go. Right, I'm just going to grab the ones I've got nearest to me. So let's put a little bit of gold. Now, if this doesn't stick, it's not because the technique, it means I didn't put enough ink on. So, there we go, we've got a bit of gold. And a little bit of silver. Oh, I am going a bit, when I said little, I am doing little, aren't I? There we go. Hi, Cheryl. Oh, we've got, isn't it amazing? I waited ages. And then everybody comments. Right, okay, so let's have a look at this one. So let's do, right, I'm going to do a little bit of the broken china because we've got some pink bits, and hope that will change. And then I'll do a little bit of the Kitsch Flamingo. Now the broken china's, well, because it's blue on blue, what it should do is just make it look shiny. She says, fingers crossed. Right, okay. Let's grab the Mingo. God, that's Bev's fault. So, right. Okay. And I think I'm going to finish with actually grabbing some white. Have I got some white? Yeah. Happy New Year to you too. Right, so let's see if there's any bits left over, and I'm going to put white on them. Now, if I miss bits, do you know, I think that looks equally as good because it just gives like a shabby chic-y effect. Is there such a word as a shabby chic-y? I'm not sure there is, but we'll have it for today. Right, okay, so there we go. If you're worried about contaminating your white, don't do what I just did. Right, let's just get rid of some of the powder. There we go. And I'll heat from the back of the paper so you can see, again, it changing. So this is going to be a mixture of the glazes with a traditional opaque embossing powder. Let's put you... Now you can see this is a mop-up one because I can tell because it's paper and it's starting to bend. It's not holding when I put the heat against it, but that's cool. So you can... Let's see. So you can see where the glaze is, it will show some of the background, and then you can see the traditional, the original embossing powder, I suppose, that got us all started, goes completely opaque. Whereas the glaze will still show through some of the detail of the original. So like where I've got the Flamingo and the broken china. And then I've added the white in as well. I think I might need to move my hands in a moment. I will tip it towards the light so you can see a little bit better. I have got about 6 lights on here, but it's like that telly wiggle, isn't it? That spark thing, trying to get the right angle so you can see it all. So I'm going to have to tip it away from me a little bit anyhow, just to see where I haven't heated up the powder. Okay, so that's that one, and then I'll show you them in a minute, and I'll move the light over so you can see it a little bit better. So this was using an embossing folder, so one side will be debossed, the detail, the embossing ink's gone into the debossed bit, and one part has gone around and into the raised part. So okay, I've just got to tip it away from me so I can see where I've been. And not burn my fingers at the same time. Let's turn that around. Hi Joan, how are you? It does take a little bit longer for the embossing powder to heat up this way, but that's because it's got to go through the card to get to the powder. Also, if you put your heat gun tool too near to the back of the card and you see smoke coming out, all it means is just move it away a little bit. It's just scorching the card or paper. Right, okay. So let's see if I bring the light over, if you can see a little bit better. Right, so that's the embossing powder. And that's a mixture of the gold and the silver. So I'm waiting for Facebook to catch up with me to see if you can see. Actually, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll stand on my step and then I can see. Isn't it bad? So we've got the gold and the silver. So where we've got the gold and the silver, that's the traditional opaque of the embossing powder. And then where you can see the flamingo here, it's shows the blue going through. So that's how you can mix the two together. And then I've got some of the blue coming through there of the broken china. So I can, and same here. So I can still see the original blue there. It's just made it more of a green blue, if that makes sense. So that's that one there. And then this one is the deboss side. And you can see the gold and the silver. So it's gone into just where the deboss would be, and where I've used, excuse me, the glazes have still got the pink there, and it's picking up the background. The same with the broken china, it's still picking up the background, but the other embossing powders have got more of opaque look. I hope that makes sense. I hope you can see the sparkle and everything. Okay, so so you can do, do your backgrounds using your embossing folders, and as you saw what the background started out as. So that was roughly that one as it started out, and how suddenly it changes its look just by going back to, like I said, this embossing was the first technique that really got me into crafting. So those there, I'm going to let them dry. I'm just going to grab these and we'll start making. I don't think I'll make everything, but we'll have a go with different things. I'm now looking for, this is what I'm looking for. Right, so let's grab some tape, would be a good idea. Does anybody have a favourite embossing technique they like to try or do? Other than, you know, the traditional... I'm sorry, I'm just looking for scissors. Because I've got lazy with embossing recently and just doing his sentiments. And that's such a shame when it can do so much more. Right, so these ones were on a background and I've just stamped them and embossed them with clear. So I'm just going to die cut some of these out. I have already done some already, so I can show you. And what I normally do is these are for the backgrounds or the mop-ups that I genuinely, I will just use for collage, and that is it. But it's a great ones to use actually with your sand. Sorry if my head got in the way, I just need to look over where I placed the dies. And that one. And I can tell this is a mop-up because there's a torn piece of coming away from the card there and there. Oh, just won't put my tape there, that's all. So let's just quickly cut these out. I managed to break my plate, that's why I've got half a plate. It dropped it when I was getting my stuff out the car. So I need to go and get a new one at some point. When that will be, don't know. Oh, I've got stamen stuck to the bottom of my machine. The resist is beautiful, isn't it? Oh, the Frantage range, yeah. The resist embossing is fantastic. Have you ever tried resist embossing and then ironing it? Because that is really cool as well. So let's just do that. Okay, right, so I've got one there and I want to do this here. But resist embossing and then ironing it means you can get 2 for 1. But also if you don't want the raised look that the embossing powder is going to give you, it can take that away as well. So let's put that die back, file the tape. So let's just put that, line it up. Isn't it amazing? You can line up, I can line everything up when I'm not having to worry about other people watching me. When other people watch me, it goes all wrong. Yeah, that beauty. Oh, do you know, I wish they'd still made that. Dominique, I will do a demo on the resist with ironing. Probably the most action my iron's seen in years. Right, okay, so these were the ones that we started out with my backgrounds. Let's keep that. And all I did was just stamp and emboss onto a background that was a mop-up piece again. All right, and I'm going to be honest and say what I would do is those would then go back into here and be used for another day. Right, okay, so when I look at the, so now suddenly I've got free colouring on my stamped images straight away from that background. And I don't have to do any colouring at all. So we don't seem to treat our gel prints like we would do a backing paper, and that's exactly what they are. We've created our own bespoke backing paper. So now I've got stamped images straight away coloured in. And if you didn't want the coloured edge, just stamp on white and then cut out. But one of the things I do like to do is I like to take them and chop them about just a little bit. So if I cut the wing off here, and I'm just going to cut that background off as well. And while I've got this here, let's cut this out. And we'll go around the feet this time rather than cut the feet off. And let's just do that there. Okay. So I've just cut that up, and that's all I've got left is those little bits there. And then taking this image here, and if I grab the other ones I've got that I did, where are you? Okay, I'm just going to grab some backgrounds in as well that we've done. And these are ones that I did earlier as well, exactly the same way, but just on different backgrounds. Oh, I really wish they'd kept the UT going, you know, the pot to melt it in, but I suppose you can do little metal containers as well. So where I've got so these are like my main birds that I've just stamped out, and as you can see, all I've done is they're exactly on old backgrounds that I didn't like particularly for whatever reason. And then by cutting away bits, I can suddenly now have changed the way the birds look. So I can layer it up. So that one can go like that. I can put the orangey one on the top like that. So now I've collaged up the birds. I can layer up the wings again in a different way. So if I took a wing there, I can put another wing on top. And that was just by stamping with clear embossing powder. So, you know, so I can layer those all on top. In fact, I'm going to put the yellow wing on there and put the orange body. No, I'm not. I like that yellow body. Let's go for that wing on there. So, you know, so I've got enough there to do another bird. If I stamped and put one out again, I've got another there. So, you know, so you can do those straight away. And then when I've done the butterflies, they're exactly the same. They're a background. I've just stamped in clear, stamped in black and clear embossing. And then if you do it twice, because they're like a mirror image, I can put some thread through it. I do it twice sometimes because, you know, when you've got it on a card and you lift the wings up, I've got it already then decorated. But then with the smaller butterflies, I can layer in between. So this one here can now sit on the top. And I've got a layered butterfly that way. And then I've got a bigger butterfly here. And let's put this one on top. And that one can sit on the top that way as well. So I would cut the antennae out, so we haven't got two lots of antennae. So suddenly you've got, from your backgrounds, on already coloured backing paper. Lots of mince pies or apple pies, I know. I just joined to find you dismembering birds. Sorry, Angela. So there we've got those there. So that was just straightforward, traditional embossing stamped images. I do love these ones from Be Crafty, the birds. But suddenly, if I take, which is my one here, and I would cut it down, if I'm being honest. So if I take this bird suddenly, and I put it on the background, all I need to do is, I would probably grab an older piece. What have I got? I've got a horrible piece here, but we'll just pretend for now. As you can see, I've used this previously. I'm just going to, just for speed, cut my own out. But you could easily stamp on top of it. So suddenly, if I put a couple of leaves behind it, the bird and then a sentiment. So suddenly, you know, I will stick all these down and do them properly. So suddenly I've now, this was a background I didn't love. I've embossed it. And all the things that we love about embossing powder has suddenly helped me change something that's really quite ropey, or was quite ropey, into the starting point of a card, or you know, whatever you want it to be. Like I said, I would trim it down. So the bird could go on there, or alternatively, it would work equally, you know, on there. Or I've got the butterflies that suddenly can sit on a background there with a sentiment, and I've got a card straight away that way. So I'm just playing with pieces. Let's just move you. And again, all these, so we've got this background here, I would trim it down, and if we suddenly just put, just on that one background, trimmed it down into a DL or a 7x5 card, and you just had one butterfly on it and a sentiment, you've got a card straight away. just for a little bit of stamping and embossing. It's your backgrounds that you think that you're never going to use, you suddenly turn them into something. I would stick it probably with, Dominique, what I'd probably do is stick the top part of the wing down flat and then the bottom part with some pads so it makes it stand out. But also what you could do with the wings if you wanted to, where's my wings? So I could have one on the top. I'm not saying I'd do these colours. Where's the other one? I did. And I could suddenly put another one behind and make the wings look even bigger. Or you could have the original and have it look like it's flying once you cut all the bits out. Or you could suddenly put a wing this side and the bird looks like it's got a little bit more. There's lots of things. So that's from that background there. So, and then if, like this background here, I would probably just trim. Let's move you lot out of the way. See, Julia, I am being a mess now. Right, so this background here, what I would probably do is, let's go, and I would keep the bits that I have just chopped, because they would stamp and make something else, because they've got gold and silver on them. So they would go in my collage box. And if I... do that. So I've got 3 pieces from that. I'm just going to grab, right, this is not white card, but just to give you an idea. So suddenly that piece there that nobody really liked, if I just put one piece on there, if it was on a white card, and I grabbed a butterfly or even a couple or one of the birds, it suddenly changes its look again. So don't think you have to use a whole piece. You could use a little piece, and that, or I could do 2 pieces. So I've got that piece there and that piece there. You can line them up. I could then put one of the birds on top if I wanted to, with a simple sentiment, and I've got a DL card straight away just by cutting it up. I think you need to check the definition of making a mess. Okay, Noreen. To me, if I took a photograph of around me, it looks a mess. But hey ho. So that's just lots of different ways. I just wanted to really bring back in one of my favourite things, and one of the things that really got me hooked on crafting big time was the embossing powder. And all the different things you can do with it, and all the different backgrounds and everything like that. So if you've got prints, gel prints at home, you've loved making, but you don't know now what you want to do with them, you know, grab out your stencils, you know, do your stencil embossing with them. So like, for example, there, that's stencil embossing. Grab them and you know, just suddenly turn them into different types of backgrounds that you can put on your cards. Because if that's what you want to do is card making, then, you know, do that. Have a bit of fun with them with card making. Hi, Bee. So, thanks ever so much for your time. I hope that was encourages you to, you know, not get disheartened about, you know, getting your jelly plate out, and, you know, go back to what got us hooked in the first place, into crafting. Thanks everybody for your time. If you've got any questions, just let me know. I will do the resist technique one, and I'm going to have a little bit of a play now and see what I can turn these into properly. Because some of these, though, just need a sentiment, cutting down and a sentiment, and maybe a little bit of twine. They don't need much more else. Oh, never mind, Bee. Thanks again, everyone, for your time. Take care, everyone. Have a cracking afternoon, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.